right, welcome back. My next guest, he calls it the special K-shaped economy, right? And if anything, it seems like it's getting more special by the minute, right? Or otherwise known as worse. The wealth in the U.S. is still heavily concentrated. The top 10% of the U.S. held $119 trillion in the last quarter of last year. That's nearly 70% of total wealth in the top 10%, folks. How about that? Now, if you take the top 0.1%, which is approximately 136,000 households, they held roughly $25 trillion, or around $183 million per household. So there you go. That's a pretty elite club for sure, isn't it? I think this is exactly why we're struggling with all the candidates espousing the virtues of socialism. We're going to see more and more of it as the midterms near. We'll also see more and more blue cities and states institute or attempt to institute wealth taxes, otherwise known as stealing, if you ask me. It's not a tax on earned income, it's a tax on your estate. And by the way, who gets the job of evaluating these estates? There's property, there's stocks, and I'm sure there's some very illiquid assets in there, like what do you put a value, what value to put on wine or art? My next guest, he's a big fan of wine and art, I'm sure. Please welcome to the show, Mr. Craig Bolanos, coming to us. He's with VestGen. He's a wealth partner, or co-founder and wealth advisor at VestGen Wealth Partners up in Chicago. Thanks for being on, Craig. Thanks for the time. All right. That's a pretty shocking stat. The upper 10% owns about 70% of the total wealth out there. I don't know if I would have guessed that per se, but now you're going to see more and more of the left, or whomever, these blue states and blue cities, I think, are going to be coming for the people they think have the money, who can, quote unquote, pay their fair share or just a little bit more or be more fair with it. I don't like it. It feels like stealing, but I was just wondering where your thoughts are on how we get rid of this unaffordability problem, not affordability.
Well, there's that Pareto principle where 20% of the workforce does all the heavy lifting for the 80% that's absent, right? And I guess we probably shouldn't be too surprised that the net worth or the wealth data is so skewed to that top decile of citizens in the United States. Now, what are we going to do to bridge that gap ultimately? I'm not a policymaker. Scott, I'm not. But I do worry now if someone's going to tax me based on the value of my vast pickleball paddle collection and red wine, because I love both of those an awful lot, right? No, but in getting all serious, people oftentimes say, how can stock markets be ripping at or near all-time highs when we continue to see this bifurcation of consumer confidence? Because the most typical surveys, like the Conference Board, even though it got a little bit better, or the University of Michigan Consumer Sentiment Survey, which comes out once a month, it's absolutely abysmal. This chasm, the further it widens, the more chance there's going to be some type of policy that's going to bring it together through redistribution. So I think everybody needs to start pulling up their bootstraps, get to work in DC, and figure out what we can do. Or maybe it's not DC. Maybe it's just reshoring jobs to America. Maybe it's just the investment into infrastructure. Maybe it's us committing and deciding that we will be the leader in all things AI, the vertical that creates the solve, because we've had this problem before in America. We have it again today, and I think there's a way to bridge it.
Yeah, I do too. But the problem is that a large part of this special K, like as you call it, or our K-shaped economy, really stems from the fact that we've had a lot of inflation since 2020. At least when we went into the pandemic, we threw a ton of capital and cash at our economy, but we didn't give anybody anything extra to buy with that money. So we drove up the prices of everything. And then when you then do that year over year over year over year, you compound inflation, just like you can compound your interest in your bank account. You really start to see a lot of people's assets take off, and people that don't have those get left behind. And I think that's where it all kind of started, that year over year compounding of inflation. So those that had stocks or those that had real estate really started to benefit, and those that didn't are still paying that tax at the grocery store once a week. They're still paying rent. they don't have a big 401k. That drives a big, big wedge when you compound inflation like we have done over the last 5 or 6 years. What do you think?
And it makes people feel bad. It makes people feel awful. And I would argue even the visibility of all things social media is only adding to it because people don't just feel that they're left behind. They're reminded on a daily basis, depending on what type of socials that they're plugged into, that they might be getting left behind. And that's where everybody can retool. It's not easy. Everyone can repurpose. It's not easy, but it starts with just taking control. I know what a lot of people are up against. I'm happy that I had a chance to own a house. I'm happy I had a chance to build a portfolio before we ingested all this money into the economy. Because you're right, the velocity of money spirited asset prices at the likes of which many people didn't anticipate. And if you didn't get in, like my two boys didn't get in, home ownership is a real challenge, and saving for retirement might be a challenge.
Yeah, you're right. And, I talk about it all the time with folks that have kids that are your son's ages or your kids' ages, I think. And, there's two sides of that coin with me, right? Because it was hard. I was able to I bought my first place in 1992, and it just happened to be in England. I didn't even buy it in the U.S. And it just happened to be the right time to get in on the housing ladder, right? It was everything kind of appreciated from that point on. So that was called luck, right? I just got in at that time, and there were some people that were unlucky and were given their keys back in 1990 in London, right? Because interest rates had spiked, the economy had slowed, precipitously, and they were on the wrong end of that luck. So yeah, hard work and maybe a little bit of luck, but at the same time, you know what? I didn't have the opportunity for avocado toast every morning and a $9 Starbucks either, right? So there's some discipline there that I think has slipped too along the way. I would have probably bought it because look at me, right? I love avocado toast and a $9 Starbucks, but we just didn't have the opportunity to spend that money on that stuff, right? It wasn't right in our faces like it is now.
No, but that's the whole thing. Everyone's blessed with opportunity. I understand that budgets might be tight, but it starts with the first step. Start telling your money where to go instead of wondering where it went. That's the budget. Pay yourself first. Get invested into your Roth 401k at work, your Roth IRA. Invest in great companies of America, specifically industrial, financial, Mag 7, and consider the trend that is cryptocurrency because those are all disruptive things for the future. And I think if people follow the basic blocking and tackling of what created the wealth for that upper 10%, it is a repeatable process. We just don't know the time it's going to take to manifest.
I mean, it almost, when I listen to you, you sound like a football coach, right? Because everybody wants to make it harder than it is. Everybody thinks that there's some big secret, but it just boils down to the basics, like you just described. It's the blocking, it's the tackling, it's the tell your money where to go, not ask it where it went. I mean, those are the types of things that when you stack them on top of each other, lead to success. It's not a secret, right? I think a lot of people think there might be a shortcut or some secret or something out there, but no. It just comes down to basic knowledge and basic discipline. And most people, if not all people, have an opportunity to do that. I'll give you the last 10 seconds.
All of us, Scott, I get excited about it because it's within all of us. Let's call it like this. Hustle beats talent every day of the week, right? So get out there and get hustled.
You're exactly right.
Watch this TV program, listen to the other radio programs. You too will get empowered with information. And next thing you know, you'll make meaningful progress. It's never too late and there is no tomorrow. Let's commit to get started today.
Awesome, brother. Great to have you on. You say a lot of truth there. Greg Bolanos, he's with VestGen Wealth Partners up in Chicago. Thanks for coming on the show. See you again next week, man. Take it easy. All right.